Hi there. So one of the tools an artist will probably have, and I don't know an artist that doesn't, is a good library of art books. And I have tons of them. I buy them all the time. I'm actually a little bit addicted to buying them, to be honest. And you might think, why buy books in this technical age? But there's lots of reasons why. You can get a good book and you can take it away from your computer and go and sit on your couch with your sketch pad, and it's really good to get away from the computer for a while and bury yourself into a nice book. So I'm going to recommend two to you today, and they're very different. The first one is How to Draw by Scott Robertson. And the second one is Art Fundamentals by 3D Total Publishing. Okay, so let's go through them in a bit more detail and you can see what I mean. So the first book, How to Draw, is very, very technical. Well, I say very, very technical. It is quite technical. You can see here just by the contents, it goes into a lot of detail on how to lay out a drawing from perspective point of view. And if you have ever had problems with perspective, this book will sort it all out for you. You really need to read this book if you have problems with perspective, because it will, it is, I've taught you some basics in this course, but this goes into a lot of detail. It's a good step forward beyond this course. And it gives you lots of examples to do and practice. Goes through perspective terminology, which is really useful. Like I say, it goes into a lot of detail. And it doesn't just cover boxes on planes and things. It really goes into detail on how to put curves into your perspective and odd shapes and divide rectangles, divide spaces up. And it goes into a lot of detail about the volume of objects and how the volume of those objects are placed in the 3D world. And that's really, really cool to learn. If you're serious about, progressing your art, not just on a computer, but generally across the board, you need these skills. Having these skills in your arsenal, you'll find you'll get along a lot easier, a lot easier and a lot quicker. And of course it goes into ideas on using 3D to create your concept art. So you build your 3D objects first, and you render that out in simple shapes, and then you can draw over the top of it, which is really handy. And I've done that in the past. And of course, and then it goes into a lot of planning, what you should do before you start. Plan your concepts. And like we've done in this course, talks about thumbnails, sketching, and how important that is to the process. It's a really good book. Well worth purchasing. And I think currently, when I recorded this lecture, it was $36 on Amazon. Okay, so now let's get into the second one. Very, very different from the first one. This one really focuses on colour, on light, and on composition. And it does have a perspective section, chapters in there, which is slightly different from the other book. But, when you buy a book, you tend to buy it for chapters or various sections of the book. But both of these are really solid, packed books, which will give you a lot of knowledge, basically. Colour for me was always a bit of a struggle, and this book really helped me understand that, which I found really useful. And it still is at times, so it's really good to pull this off the shelf and get some reference. It also talks a lot about value, about shadow, and sort of reflected light, and how the light sort of bounces around a scene. And this is really important in video games. You know, we talk about this a lot during development, how light hits a surface and bounces off and is reflected, and you know, and how it colours the scene generally. So it's you know, learning this stuff is really, really important. It will, you know, it'll take you through the colour wheel just like I have done here, but it will go into more depth with that. But the big thing for me here was also composition, composition, perspective, and depth. It's quite good for that. It's, you know, it's really it goes into a lot more detail, just like the other book. You know, it's a step forward from this course. You know, you'll learn more, you'll get a bit more advanced. And there's also a whole section on anatomy, which is not my strong point. I'm much more an environment artist, but you know, learning a bit about anatomy is good because sometimes you have to paint characters into your scene, so it's really useful to have that knowledge also. And right at the back, there's sort of a gallery of pictures and art that artists have contributed to the book. So both books are really, really, you know, really good. And I've thumbed through these several times, and I still do, which is why I'm recommending them to you. And I'm sure you'll benefit from them if you're serious about taking your art forward and a lot more serious. So I hope that's helped you. And both books are $36 currently on Amazon. Oddly, I don't know what they'll be when you go there, but when I looked, they were both $36. So, but well worth it in my opinion. So I hope that's helped you, and I will see you in the next lecture.